mayor was willing to sign the signature form for the Accessible Parks grant, even though we haven't actually presented it to the board, affirming that we had. So we will take that to the next board meeting as a done deal. But this last night, as I was doing the last uploads of everything, renaming all the files so that they could be found again, I tried 3 different versions of the site plan, which is an absolute requirement to submit the application. And the only submissions that will be accepted are online. The program will accept it. It will show that it has it. And then I try to say that section is done, and it says, oh no, it's not. You still need to give us a site plan.
Hey, Joey. Good morning.
Okay.
When I talked to him, he said he was happy of your fetish necklace.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, right. Have you seen the forecast for this weekend? Yesterday night, last night, it said 58%. I wake up this morning, 91%. And just like that, Jim.
And you have curly hair.
Which, you know, thank goodness, because I'm good with it. Let it go. Let it curl.
Well, yeah, last year I was really trying to press on me and have a plain big case of it. I just had to go over this year.
Hey. Well, so, and I looked at Friday, the setup. I mean, it starts raining at about 3 a.m. Saturday morning, it looks like.
It might be done. You might have a wet day if they otherwise would be again.
No, it's supposed to rain like every Sunday, like heavy. I mean, are we allowed to set up in the bottom room, or what is
Yes,
that?
that's the part. That's the only part. So Betty, I'm sure, will be out there doing corrections. You can't just change the date because in RA books, you know, they have to do way too much. You can't just change it.
Yeah, no. Hi.
There are two pieces of material over there plus a agenda. Well, we've been sitting on this one for 2 months, bless his heart. At last, at last. Hello. Okay, good. Yeah, put your stuff down, relax. We actually have extra chairs. You might want to take one. It'd be easier to do the presentation. Okay.
Hi, I'm Kathy.
Still same, Ken.
Me too. I can come Saturday morning early if, you know, it's like, oh, we gotta quickly move into the room. So I'm scheduled for setup on Friday, but I can also be there early Saturday.
I'm not scheduled for any of it, but I'm planning to show anyway. Come down on Friday and be present on the field on Saturday. Brad and I bought a tent of our own, and I think he's going to use it for tree board.
Oh, nice.
And actually, we had a second one ordered, but I finally got a expected delivery date of after this event, so I canceled the order. Supposedly in stock. I don't know what their problem was. The one that we got is quite sturdy enough. The other one would have been even sturdier.
No.
Hi. Hi. I have put a few of your documents at the end of the table. We shared a little panic attack this morning, Beth and I, for different reasons. Well, mine was about this grant application that we're trying to finish. There's one absolutely critical piece called a site plan. I have it as a JPEG, uploaded it,
Right.
tried to click that section as done. We need your site plan. I put it in a Word document, made it docx out of it, uploaded it. We need your site plan. It's refusing to take the one piece that I absolutely have to include. Oh. Yeah. Okay. It didn't go on your credit card, so we just have to pay them. Well, bless their hearts. Sure, sure. I'm glad you told me that. Oh, I love it. I think we may actually have this copy, but I love it anyway. It's absolutely beautiful. Thank you. Okay.
We're late, I'm sorry, it's 9:01. We talk. All right, we call to order. Moment of silence, please. Okay, Jill, would you call for the board?
All right, let me count people. We have Arrington, we have Dottie, we have Tracy, we have Beth. Oh my goodness, and Jason. Okay. All right, we have me. We have Kathy. We made it. We got a quorum. I may not even have everybody counted yet, but we are here.
Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
Second.
Any discussion? Changes? All in favor?
I
Aye. I did not see who moved and seconded it. Does anyone really?
second it.
Okay.
And do I hear a motion to approve the April 3rd minutes as emailed?
Say what?
Agenda.
The agenda. Okay.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none, they are approved. Treasurer's report, Jill.
Okay. I don't know how much to say about the treasurer's report. I can tell you that we had one donation registered of $1,000, and that was for Flat Creek Crossing. We had one payment out of the general fund for Montreat of $13.99 for DreamHost web hosting. Nothing else is actually posted for the month of March, and it's absolutely miraculous that we have an end of March report because the staff is dealing with new software. And one of the things that has happened with the new software, we don't need to make a big deal out of this, but there was a payment link for making online donations, and we happen to know that several donations were made because they were personal friends of one of the committee members, and they weren't showing up. They weren't showing up. So it turns out they did hit the town books in this new software system, but they hit it as going into the general fund. So the staff have spent hours diagnosing what happened and getting it fixed. They're not showing in this report, but in April, we will see those donations. And the other thing we should see in April, appearing as if by magic, is $34,065 from the Pigeon River Fund for Flat Creek Crossing. And that's all the report I've got today.
That's a great report. Congratulations. Okay, town council.
I'm so sorry, I forgot to bring my notes with me. It was a very light report. The council designated, I think it was April 22nd as Montreat Earth Day. I believe it was April 22nd. They also made a designation of Arbor Day. Which was May 4th. Oh, it was May 4th, thank you. I am so sorry. I'm just blanking on. There was one other thing. Oh, I know, it was the survey. That the survey had been sent out regarding Flat Creek Crossing, getting people's input on their ideas about what's about Flat Creek Crossing, what would be important to them. So hopefully we'll see the results of that survey. And that's it.
I could add a little to that, if that would be all right. There were, as of last night, 65 responses, which to this kind of survey from this town and the MRA, that's a big deal. It's a good response rate. And it's regarded as a stable response rate. So we can say that more than 80% of people are aware of Flat Creek Crossing, at least to some degree, and something like 78 or 79% think that it is very important or extremely important. And more than that, I'll deal with more analysis later, but and we put off doing that for so long, and we're so afraid that, well, nobody's listening, and maybe they don't even like the idea, and these results are just overwhelmingly positive. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. MRA,
Everybody be sure your mics are on. Yeah.
Tracy, do you have anything?
Native plant sale on Saturday.
Summer staff, the first summer staff show up 2 weeks from today. So summer is upon us.
Wow.
And so that's the big thing to that. And then we will have a table at the native plant sale. Tanner Pickett will be there with information and answering questions specifically about the lake dredging process. So if anyone is curious about that, they'll be there. So there you go.
And I know that you've told Betty Douglas that you need a table.
What was that?
I know you've told Betty Douglas you need a table.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, we emailed last couple weeks. Yeah.
Okay, there was something I wanted to ask you, but I forgot what it is. I'll come back to you if I remember it. Thank you. George, Dottie, Montreat College.
Not really any report, but this is the last week of classes and finals week next week. Looking forward to the plant sale as well.
George?
I'm happy to report that
In your mic.
it's supposed to be on, is it?
So
Yeah, it's on. Happy to report that the Earth Care Committee and the Landcare Committee co-sponsored a very good meeting last Wednesday on Bearwise. It was very well attended, not only by Montreat Presbyterians, but by a lot of Montreat people. It was a good program, very well done.
It was packed, wasn't it?
It was.
Okay, let's see here. Bill, Community Wildlife.
Turn it up. There you go.
Community wildlife program in Montreat is alive and well. Annually, we're required to have 30 points for different kinds of measures and achievements. We're halfway there with 15. Look at another 5 points for the native plants sale display coming up this weekend. So things are on track there. A couple of things we're doing. There are 3 of us on the little committee. Martha Campbell, Harrington, and myself. And we're doing just a little bit of neighborhood recruitment in terms of taking to our neighbors' application forms who might be interested in certifying their yards. We certify a yard with what we call points with the National Wildlife Federation, and if we get 5 points, then it sort of counts in their mix. I've been attending the periodic conference calls of the National Wildlife Federation. In April, they told us it was May is Florida Wildlife Month, so there you have it. And then we'll have a display at the native plant sale. And that's it.
Great, thank you. Betty is not here probably with very good reason. Nancy Midget's not here. Abigail is not here. And it's Flat Creek Crossing. Jean is here.
Okay. Well, the huge news is that we actually did get the Pigeon River grant for $34,065. And Patty said it was a good thing she was sitting down when she heard. And and I couldn't quite stop sniffling as I called up the program officer to thank her and said, what else do we need to do to thank you? I mean, don't we need an acknowledgement letter? And she said, you've already done more than most of our fundies will do. So which is a sad state of affairs. And then she said, well, I could tell from your bios and, you know, our interactions that you're of a generation, which was cute. All right, now this is somewhat unofficial because we have not taken the next grant application to the town council, but we will in this very next meeting. And we are probably about an hour and a half's worth of proofreading from Send. And it's to the Accessible Parks Grant Program, which is handled by NC Park and Rec, along with PARTIF and other funds. It has a 5-to-1 very favorable match. They really are interested in having accessible things built. We have no assurance that we will get it, but their limit is 500,000. So our request, it's entered in the computer already, will be for 272,000. And we will be responsible for matching that with close to 60,000, but we have another 30,000 of planned expenses for the web build out and so forth that we think is extremely important to the project. That people who are neurodiverse, their families can get online and can get a what could we do at the park and social stories and so forth. So that increases our match to about 85,000. We are close to having that in hand, and we have an ongoing fundraising push right now. So, you know, if the stars align, we could actually be building and finish the build by next spring, which was our original target date.
That's wonderful.
We have to get that fund to do it, but it's feeling pretty good.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Yes, 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 yes.
Thank you.
I don't have a report. Patty's not here. Okay, unfinished business. Bill, you have a presentation. Got it? Mhm.
Good. I think you're up for an early adjournment today. This should take about 10 minutes, and and then we'll put Flat Creek to bed for a while. But back in February, I made a presentation to a statewide scientific meeting on Flat Creek, and I entitled the presentation, Watershed Stewardship in a Small Mountain Community, stakeholder involvement is key to education, planning, and resource restoration and management. So that was a wide net that I cast, all of which was delivered in a 5-minute lightning round. So you can imagine how I breezed through it. But I'd like to share an adaptation of that now and take a little bit more time. You know, some of you, when you think of Flat Creek, I mean, it's a treasure. And I think it's the kind of stream that other communities wish they had or had back in many cases. So what I'm going to tell you this morning are sort of six success stories, just connecting the dots in terms of maybe giving Landcare some information and ammunition that might be useful in grant applications, and I'm getting a thumbs up from Jean and so on and so forth. I want to start off and have you think about Flat Creek for a minute and what you value at Flat Creek. A lot of folks are maybe familiar with the term ecosystem services. What does the earth do for us? Clean air, clean water, minerals, and so on and so forth. But think about what do people value in Flat Creek and its impoundment. And you think about who values these services. Anglers seeking eastern brook trout. People come from out of town to fish in Flat Creek. K through 12 college and non-formal educators Dottie, and we've been out with our environmental education certifies. So people seeking solitude and meditation, amateur and professional naturalists, including people like Josh Holbrook, who want to restore hellbenders in the creek, children and adults playing on its waters and in its waters, disabled persons anticipating new access to the creek, and then advocates of both the town's stormwater management plan as well as our new comprehensive town plan, which I'll come back to in just a minute. So think about how you value Flat Creek, and what I then launch into is how do we respond in return? And I've got five efforts since 2020 alone to report, just in summary, and then a slightly older one. And if you were filling out a chart, you might think, what's been the effort, what's been the outcome, and where did you get the funding? And so I'll try to go through and highlight those points. Back in 2020, we did the first ever scientific studies of Flat Creek waters. We looked at 8 physical chemical parameters, and lo and behold, we've got very clean water in Flat Creek, clean enough for hellbenders and for brook trout, except when we see massive stormwater events carrying soil and sediment into the creek. So that's an issue. But in that case, we got pilot funding from the North Carolina chapter of the American Fisheries Society to pay the laboratory analysis bills, and the work was done by the Environmental Quality Institute right here in Black Mountain. So that's number one. Number two, before that, some of you may remember John Johnson, and he started out on his one-man crusade to preserve hemlock trees, which grew into a community-wide effort. And so treating hemlocks for woolly adelgids has led to preservation of at least some hemlocks along the creek, and it provides cooling for the waters there. And I would love to know how the treatment program is going in terms of all those beetles we released. Third thing, we've got a track trail now that goes from the Moore Center all along Flat Creek down to the Memorial Garden. That was sponsored by the Blue Ridge Parkway Foundation, and it's providing access to the creek for parents, adults, families with educational materials that are available at the kiosk by the Moore Center. So those 3 efforts were all under the auspices of the Montreat Landcare Committee. So there's a track record there. Fourth thing I'd like to mention is that last year, the town of Montreat completed a stormwater management plan, and I'm not even sure of the status, if anybody knows if it's been formally approved by the regulatory authorities or not. But nonetheless, an outside consulting group, Blue Earth, did a lot of the analyses, and assistance came from the Land of Sky Regional Council, and a staff member was detailed to Montreat. So again, sort of an outside source of funding. Fifth, during the town planning process last year, under the auspices of the Montreat Landcare Committee, we held a workshop with about a dozen citizens in this room talking about sort of what we appreciated, what were our concerns for Flat Creek. And that information was folded into the town comprehensive plan. In fact, the town plan mentioned stormwater 23 times. So I think the consultants got the message, and 20% of the plan objectives somehow relate to Flat Creek. So, we're sort of on record as saying Flat Creek is important to us. And then finally, as you know so very well, the all-access trail, the Flat Creek Crossing, is a fantastic work in progress, and that's going to be just the jewel in the crown of Montreat Landcare in the coming year. And then we know that there's a dredging project coming up, cleaning out sediment from Lake Susan. And I'm just sort of talking to some colleagues in the Fish and Wildlife Resources Commission. They might have a few ideas on maybe a preliminary study of what's in the lake before the lake is dredged, what's there biologically, ecologically. So we'll see. So anyway, six projects, some dots to connect with our cultural environmental jewel of Flat Creek. And that's about it. But I think at the meeting in February, which was over in Silva, I think at least some of our science and policy colleagues said, well, a small town can do a lot, you know, when stakeholders get involved in the research and the management. So I just leave that with you, and if you got thoughts or questions, now's the time. Thanks.
Bill, thank you so much. We've been waiting to hear this. This is great.
Okay, good, thanks.
Can I
Thank
ask
you.
a couple questions?
Sure.
Hey, I would love if I could see this map bigger sometime, the one with the dots. Do you have access to a blown-up version
Sure.
of that? That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm also curious on the stormwater. I don't know if you looked at this. Did you find that the problems were related to new construction or some of the older construction that was done prior to modern building codes and things in terms of placement on creeks and in floodplains and all of that? Do we have any sense of what's driving it?
Not really. I wasn't involved in the stormwater project.
Bill, talk to the.
Yeah, I wasn't involved in the stormwater management plan project, but I know the consulting group, and Josh Holbrook was involved too. I think they mapped every single stormwater outfall that comes from the roads and people's property and so forth. But my sense is qualitative, you know, you have a heavy rainfall, and the sediments in Lake Susan. Where does it come from? You know, and we know it's new construction, but just look at all the road cuts, the roadways, from Street, from Conference, from College, from property, all exposed as far as running off.
Yeah. Just a curious thing, a question I have to know. That's some of the stuff that Bill's, you know, under, gosh, I bet you do that now. Yeah. So, yeah, no, that's great.
Well, that's, you know, while we're ahead of schedule, that's just maybe a possible Landcare project in terms of doing what a number of communities are concerning us somewhere and going back and retrofitting drainages from homes. When you drive along country roads right now, you see plastic pipes coming out of drain pipes, you come out of driveways, and all that stormwater is freshly run down into ultimate kitchen branch and punch branch and the creek itself. But things can be done. Installing rain gardens to catch runoff routes, for example, diverting rainwater to other spots on property. And towns are doing this successfully. So it might be something to think about as a Landcare project. You know, no heavy-handed regulation, because we know how much we hate regulations. Look at all the citizen concern for Flat Creek and some demonstrations. It might just be interesting for somebody to start.
I'll also say we dovetailing to some of the consulting work we're doing with Woods Committee. They come up with a maps of the topography, and there's a lot of areas in the code that have a slope in excess of 40%, which means heavy rain, if you never build any houses here, it's just so steep. We have to contend with that as well.
Thank you, Bill. Any other questions, Bill?
I'd like to add one comment, and that is that encouraging citizens to build rain gardens actually has been and is still officially a Landcare initiative. We haven't done much to advertise lately, but there was a rain garden brochure produced by, names right out of my head, but, no, it's, yeah. And that actually is supposed to be living in a brochure in our town hall entry area. I'm not sure whether I've seen it just immediately past. But it's something that would make sense to return to.
And
So
correct
thank
me
you.
if I'm wrong, but doesn't the rain garden fill one of the requirements for the community backyard wildlife?
Oh, yeah.
Anything else for Bill?
Thank you very much for doing this. It was a valuable piece of history, and it was very useful.
I have a comment about the stormwater. I feel like the non-treaters who are building homes or who are adding additions are taking into consideration stormwater flow. I think the educational process to come out of that is to take shape. Just last week, the board was just approved the addition of one-story dwelling up on Kentucky, and one of the reasons that we approved it was because the owner very judiciously placed this building away from an area that affects stormwater. So we're really impressed with that. I think education's getting out there. Okay, Beth, how'd you wilderness?
Okay, I'll try to do as well as Bill and keep to 10 minutes, but it could be a little longer. Rocky Knob, Wilderness and Open Space is a subcommittee of the cottagers, and that is the committee I represent. And I'm going to do a business version of Rocky Knob and One Tree. In the beginning, God created a grass mountain somewhere between Graybeard and the Parkway. There's a ridge line that goes from Graybeard out to the Parkway. And a long time ago, in the 80s, early 90s, that land called Rocky Knob, which is about 200 acres, was owned by a family. There was a lot of work from some very wonderful people in Montreat to purchase that, and that was like a 2 or 3 year process. There was a lot of work that went into that purchase. There's a history of that if you want it, but that would take me into tomorrow. So we're not going to do that. But at that time, individuals, no group, individuals from Montreat were asked if they would help bring forth money to purchase it. It was negotiated and gotten down to about $50,000, $60,000, believe it or not. It's about 200 some acres. This land then became part of the cottagers. The cottagers actually had to change their whole legal status to be able to own this property. That was the process too. You want to hear about that. At that time, and to be totally honest, and gratefully, this is not the case today, but at the time, had that land been turned over to MRA, there was concern from some of the purchasers that it would not be protected. The whole purpose of the purchase was to keep it in wilderness. And so that's why it went to cottagers. Once it was in the cottagers, the group applied for conservation easement. Now, conservation easement is it's still in effect. It was approved, still in effect, and it's managed. So we have 2 entities here, owners, which are cottagers, on the deed, but the conservation easement is managed by SACS, which is Southern Appalachian Highlands Conservancy. Okay. the land in the conservation easement, as you know, is to the best of our ability, which there are some loopholes in there, like if government and the world changes, but the land is protected, and obviously as far as we can do, we've gone as far as we can to protect it in this conservation easement. We go up here, it shows Saks people that cell towers or porta-johns or high-rise buildings, they monitor it. That's very much, got a sidebar here, that is very much like 2,500 acres, correct me if I'm wrong, but 2,500 acres in our cove here, that is also in a conservation easement with MRA, and it is also, that conservation easement is also managed by Saks. So, and just to point you, make sure clear, Rock Knob is not contiguous with Montreat. It's actually in a different county. It's in Delaware. Okay, so for years and years and years, it's been battered around. Why is cottage square on land? What should we do with that? Who should be the proper owners? And so about 2 to 3 years ago, we really started studying this issue, and the committee, it was a wonderful committee, we worked really hard, meeting as once a month. We looked at options. Our options included continuing as is, leave it with the cottagers. They broke up some of the lines said about that. There's still, why do we want to own land, etc. Number 2, transfer the ownership to Saks, and number 3, transfer ownership to one conference center. So the ownership of the cottage, still remains a vital option. But the reason the cottages own it are no longer as important as they were back in 1991, meaning it is protected, and we have really good leadership in conference center. Number 2, the Saks, very quickly, we had one meeting with them, and it came to surface very quickly. They were very polite about saying that this is really not an option for them. For one thing, if I think the thing that jumped off at me as much as not as if they owned it, they could no longer manage it, and it's such a beautiful job of managing it that we didn't want to disrupt that relationship. And there are only a certain number of entities that can own a conservation could manage it. So if they owned it, they'd be hard pressed to find another entity that could monitor it like they are. So we quickly rolled that. Plus, their incentive to own it is not there. They would rather spend their resources, time, and energy on obtaining more lands to protect. So those are 2 of the strongest arguments for them not taking it. So we pretty quickly rolled out that as an option. Number 3, when we eliminated the Saks Center, then we really started looking hard at ownership by the conference center. And it's the reasons why we as a committee, and so the committee took this to the cottagers board. So we as a committee felt like ownership of this land is more in alignment with the mission of the conference center than it is with the cottagers. Number 2, to the conference center, there's already a lot of maintenance already happening. Maintenance of the trails happening due to the rangers in the conference center. And so it is, let's see, it's kind of connected with MRA. And then the transfer, another thing we pulled up part of it is the transfer over to the conference center of the deed would cost maybe $350. It's not that hard to get a lawyer on that. And we also, a few other things that are not in this report I'll tell you in just a second is when our committee, casual, not formal conversation, we look at who would look 50 years in the future. Who is better likely to be an entity that continues to that? The cottagers or the conference center. And it was pretty universally felt that the conference center is, probably long-term, that entity is more stable than the cottage owners. So we were trying to look away in the future. We also looked around at the hair color, and we looked over and saw brown hair on the scalp of him. So we got like, if we wanted to look at longevity, folks that have brown hair, we would pass it on to different folks and keep them alive. So that's a soft conversation, just more regulation, more facts. So in a series of meetings, we have gone to, okay, first the cottagers, wilderness and name to the cottagers board. This. It was unanimously agreed upon by the board of the cottagers to go to Richard and Tanner and basically to the conference center and ask it to consider. Richard went to the executive committee. He pointed out pretty quickly, a decision would have to be a conference center board of directors decision. So he went to the executive committee. They said that's going to go to the board. When he took it to the board this spring, they came back and said, I think we have to cart before the horse a little bit. And, I think he's absolutely right. There's a little sugar we can pick on this. But one of the things that needs to happen, because the cottagers body owns it, it's going to have to be voted on by the cottagers and meetings like that. So Richard came back and said, why don't you see the cottagers write up so that the cottagers vote in July, and then I will take it to the board. And while it's not like absolutely, they are willing to take it for the purpose of ensuring that this stays in a conservation status, it's continuous use for the hiking routes of the summer all year long, etc. So they're willing to do it. They're a little concerned that the word's not get out. I don't know if you listen to this. They're a little bit concerned, not huge, but a little concerned that the word doesn't get out. They're even trying to grab it from the cottagers. That is not the case. So they will be doing us a favor by taking this land off the cottagers if they do, if it works out. So anyway, let's see. So at this point, Mason and Dan Dean have looked at the bylaws of the cottagers, and we are going to have a vote in July, which is when I'm trying to educate all of you, so that if there is any angst or concern, or, we do know that in this world things don't always transfer cleanly. Sometimes things get messy in transition. So anyway, we're trying our best to educate the community about the why and the process that we go through. I'm not kidding, it has been really extensive. Every step has been such a website here. And in addition to the vote in July, 2 other things. One is, there's a report here and here, 12 copies of what I read, which has a lot of this I just talked about. I read this lesson. I've been presenting for the last at least 2 to 3 summers about this process and keeping the body up to date at the meeting. So this is what I literally read verbatim last year, because I was getting out a lot of everything. So I worked hard on this document, and Bill helped me a lot with it too. So anyway, so we're going to, about that education, we're going to advertise heavily 2 educational, maybe 3 educational meetings for the community to come and just explore, try me and explain kind of what I'm doing with you today, and then answer any questions. And another thing that has happened is Mason and I at separate times have met with one of the original purchasers of the land who at some point has sent us messages of concern. That person is now fully on board with us. I think that it's a classic case of somebody wanted to be heard, somebody who was highly invested, and they wanted to know and they wanted to be heard. So I've seen done with that individual. I think that person understands the motivation and understands that this land, as of everybody's ability, will be protected in conservation easement. So we've done some, we're also going to send to define in the materials, list the original purchasers, obviously people that can, write them a letter with special invitations to some meetings in July. We'll have it in July, they probably do. And then we will go through the whole process at the meeting and ask for a vote. We've also had to look at who is allowed to vote, and the policy, anybody that's 18 years of age doesn't have to be in there. We're in Montreal, only has to pay the $85 cottagers dues. So we have a system of figuring out how to, it's a little complex, but just to refresh me, what we're doing is like, somebody voting to give permission for Richard and Tanner to take it to the board, MRA, the full board of MRA, to see if they'd be willing to own the deed. And we the Codgers, the sub, have it to pay for all the legal fees and the transfer title and the recording of the deed in the court. And I think that's it.
Would you just repeat what you said about motion?
No. Yeah, so
What would you like?
in July, we are voting as a body of cottage owners to give us permission to ask Richard and ask the executive staff of MRA to take it to the full board of MRA to see if they're willing to obtain the deed. So purpose in me, just to reiterate, the purpose in me, going through all of this with you is, I see one more big controversy in Montreat. I'm going to move to Taiwan, Taiwan, moving somewhere. I am brokenhearted that we can't get along better. It's good that we have debate, but I don't like controversy, just adverse to that. And I think the key to that is education, awareness, transparency. If you have any issues, let me know, but this is my effort to educate this committee so that you know what's happening, okay?
Ready, yeah. I just wanted that. No. We're working on this. Okay. That's just, you got a lot of work to do, you got a lot of information. It's not done yet.
I was like, oh, why did the board just take it? Yeah, I'm ready to send it because we really have put tons of work into it. Here is a copy of the report, and there's some by Tracy in the corner. Dean made a few more copies, but technically, we'd like to report it to the coming last summer, the annual meeting last summer. I do show up on July 20th, paying $25 for the days. And that's the worst, no, that's not, I really am not here to, really am not here to tell you how to vote, but I really would like, I did want the due process to happen. And if it does, if the cottages still own it, then for the next 50 years, we'll go, why did the cottages own this? We got an answer. And the committee has really had that attitude all along. It's not like we're trying our best to get rid of it. We just want, in all honesty, the whole heart and soul of this committee is what's the best for Rocky Knob to keep it in a conservation easement, keep it protected, et cetera. So, there we go.
Good. Thanks so much. This is so important to all of us.
Please, yeah. My understanding, which has been, because the two, Mason Blake is a proper land lawyer, he's under the state law, he is chairing cottages. Dan Jean is also North Carolina lawyer, and has chaired court. And the two of them have looked at bylaws, and they have a better answer. But I believe, hear that soft word, I believe I heard that you have to be present, and there's going to be some type of token given to anybody who has paid the dues and is 18 years old. So that is my understanding at this point.
Take my token.
I don't know. I should ask about that. No, so we're not into that right now. Let's not get bogged down in details of that. But they have looked at a system to keep, if somebody wanted to stack the decks, they go out and get 45 people to drive in and vote without having to pay. There is a system, and I said, can we just not do a paper ballot or something like that? And people, okay, your trust pages, here's your ballot.
I don't expect to be a convenient token, not by paying.
Wouldn't it be fun?
But anyway, I still don't understand that. But when we were in discussion, it wasn't going into that detail. But I think the important part of that very good question, thank you. The important part of that very good question is, are we going to do votes? And the answer is yes. We're going to look at votes. Yes, and the answer is yes. So we may end up with a lot more cottage owners agreements this year to people who want to choose. That's one of the goals of the cottages too, is to get more cottage owners involved. So, yeah, Bill, I didn't do as well as you said.
Great, okay, we're going to look forward to the updates that you have.
Thanks.
Is there any new business? Okay, a motion to adjourn. Bye. Next meeting is June 5th. Bye. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you all so much. Yes, thank you.
I would